What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 5 Team Builder, taking on Chibi W and the Osaka Absol in MWPA Season 8 Earth. Her team consists of Dragapult, Gothitelle, Mamoswine, Roserade, Quagsire, Aromatisse, Beware, Colossal, Escavalier, Morpeko, and Gyarados. Her priority options are just the Mamoswine with Ice Shard. I think Dragapult might get Sucker Punch as well. I'm not entirely sure on that one. Hazard setting, she's got the Mamoswine with rocks, Roserade with spikes and toxic spikes, and Colossal with rocks and spikes. Removal options is purely the Colossal with rapid spin, so it's about as poor as my team, where my removal options are Kinkeldr with Defog. 4 times weaknesses on her team is the Quagsire to grass, Colossal to water and ground, Escavalier to fire, and Gyarados to electric. This team is broken. I really wanted Gyarados, and then KMJ traded for Gyarados, and I'm sad boy, because I think my team actually looks much better with Gyarados on it than something else, potentially in place of that. I'm definitely still worried about Arcanine. This is the last week to make transactions, so I'm probably not going to find a buyer for Arcanine. I really only wanted Rotom Heat, but it's nice to have a matchup where I can bring Raichu, I guess, at the very least. I expect pretty much everything here to come. An interesting thing with the speed tiers, it goes Dragapult all the way down to Morpeko, so it's a relatively middle-y speed tier team, as well as Gothitelle being allowed to trap. It pretty much puts me on the back foot with Kinkeldr. This team actually deals with Kinkeldr relatively well, is basically what I'm saying. So that's why Kinkeldr didn't come, and I should have talked about that later, but it's okay. Yeah, that's about it. There's a lot of threats here. There's a lot of problems. If I had to guess, maybe the Quagsire doesn't come. She can really deal with my team offensively extremely well. It's a question of how well she wants to deal with it defensively. So I think Gothitelle comes for sure, and that basically just handles Kinkeldr because Conk doesn't get knockoff access in this league. So Conk is pretty useless against Goth, and it's just free setup fodder for Goth. So Goth is coming for sure. I think Dragapult comes for sure. There's really no reason not to bring Dragapult. I think Mamoswine makes a lot of sense to pick off like Togekiss, Arcanine. I want to say that Colossal comes as an Orbeetle killer, which is otherwise actually relatively hard for her team. I think that Orbeetle is actually probably one of my stronger Pokemon in the matchup. It deals with Mamoswine really effectively, and I'll get to that in a second. But Roserade, I'm a little bit iffy on. It lost Hidden Power, which was pretty huge for it. I'm not entirely sure if it can handle everything on my team at the moment. It's pretty weak to a lot of my offense as well, so I would be a little bit questionable on a Roserade bring. Morpeko could definitely come. It's another Togekiss killer besides Mamoswine, which looks like it might be a problem for her, so a little bit iffy on that. Colossal, I'm not quite sure about. It's very weak to a lot of Pokemon on my team, but it also has a lot of viability, so that's sort of up in the air. And then Gyarados is just a gigantic threat, especially if it can get a Dragon Dance up. I probably just lose the game, so that's something to consider there. Aromatisse, another Kinkeldr wall. It's a good Weavile check, I guess, as well. I don't really know. Wish Pass into Goth is super obnoxious. That's about all I can think of. Escavalier, same sort of thing. It depends how scared she is of Arcanine. Anyways, let's get into my team. Togekiss is up first. I'm bringing a specially defensive Togekiss. I can handle most variants of like physical Dragapult because I'm immune to Dragon Darts, and the other physical coverage it gets is like U-turn and like Phantom Force. So it's actually a really poor physical attacker despite the attack stat being its highest. So I'm not as worried about physical Dragapult, and I'm more worried about special Dragapult. It's like Shadow Sneak, I guess, is another one. I think it's Shadow Sneak that it would have to rely on. So I think that speccing Togekiss a little bit more specially defensive is fine here. Lets me handle the Roserade a little bit better. Lets me handle the Aromatisse much better. Lets me handle the Gothitelle much better. Granted, there's a lot of this team that is physically biased. It's definitely a more physically biased team, but I can use this to take on the Goth if I need to. Flinch down the Aromatisse if I need to, things of that nature. And definitely handle the Dragapult. I should be able to tank T-Bolts relatively easily unless it's like a choice spec spawn. I'm not bringing... Well, I have an electric immunity actually, so it should be okay this game. Besides that, where was I going with this? Morning Sun for recovery, of course. Air Slash Aura Sphere, that should handle everything nicely. The Air Slash resist on this team are like more Pico and Colossal. Yeah, so like the flying resist on this team are actually really poor because they're both weak to fighting, so I can kind of abuse that a little bit with Togekiss having good flying plus fighting coverage. I think it's basically perfect coverage for this team, essentially. I've got Encore there for the Gothitelle because that thing is going to be really annoying, and if I can Encore into Calm Mind over and over again, then, you know, all of a sudden the Gothitelle, I'm not trapped in here with the Gothitelle, it's trapped in here with me. Depends how much she values Togekiss in the matchup, and if I can force her to switch out the Gothitelle on my Togekiss, I'm perfectly okay with that. I did not build a Gothitelle weak team by any means. I'm not bringing the Conch, and I'm not bringing the Qwilfish, which are like two of the main things that Gothitelle would want to beat. In Draft League World Series, I played in like 2 seasons ago, I guess, in Draft League World Series for Team UK, and I got PP stalled in the one game that I played with my Piloswine against Gothitelle. It was a super whack Gothitelle set that should not have come, but it did, and it worked because I predicted the last move to be Captivate rather than Trick, and my Piloswine got absolutely roasted by that, but that was an awkward game to say the least. But that's what I'm worried about as well. I think that Gothitelle might come for the Piloswine just because I have PTSD from that. Orbeetle's next. Like I mentioned, this is a fantastic Mamoswine answer. Mamoswine cannot really dent this at all. Even rock coverage just does not do it for it, and it doesn't have knockoff access in this. So Recover, Giga Drain, Psychic, and Bug Buzz, like honestly just 3 attacks plus Recover is fine. I don't need Webs. Webs would be okay for me, but they aren't necessary. So I'm not running them. Because I think Giga Drain is important for me to have for the Quagsire. Just having any sort of super effective grass coverage for the Quagsire I think is really important. And I don't really want to just be hitting it with like Psychic or Bug Buzz the whole time. Bug Buzz is there for the Gothitelle if it tries to trap me. It shouldn't be able to do all that much. Although if it's a Calm Mindset, then it gets a little bit out of hand. I probably would maybe consider U-turn in most cases. If the Gothitelle is going to trap me to make room for Mamoswine, then I'm probably screwed. And if that's the case, then that's fine, honestly. I really feel like my season is down in the gutter. I'm not technically eliminated yet. I'm pretty close, I think. Top 6 teams make playoffs. I'm actually not that close because the 6th place team only has 2 wins. But I'm definitely in a horrible spot if I am 1-4. I'm in second last place right now at 1-3 -7, and I've got some really tough games to finish up my season in the back half here. So again, I don't know where else was I going with this? Psychic doesn't hit the Dark type, which is more Pico, and Bug Buzz hits that still, so it's fine. There's not really much else to deal with that. Like this switches into Beware and Mamoswine, which is fine, and I'm not really Gothitelle fodder, so to an extent. Like I said, to an extent, I'm not really Gothitelle fodder. Orbeetle's not very strong as an attacker, but in most cases, I would imagine I can 2-shot Gothitelle, and that it's not trapping me for no reason. Escavalier, I think, is more of an issue, and I did not build a very good team around Escavalier at all. Arcanine would, like Shuka Arcanine or something, would be a much better bring here to deal with Escavalier, and it's not on my squad. And the reason for that is because I'm bringing Cursula, which I think is actually a gigantic offensive threat here. It's a rocker, which is a huge positive for me because the removal option on this team is solely Colossal, and I think rocks are actually really important in helping whittle things down, and if it's not Heavy Duty Boots Gyarados, that's important. If it's not Heavy Duty Boots Colossal, that's important. Rock Tip is just going to be super helpful in this game, so I wanted to have that as a backup there. Shadow Ball, Rocks, Earth Power, and Power Gem. Power Gem is there for Gyarados. I think that's the only reason I have Power Gem, actually. Shadow Ball should be able to deal with everything else, and Earth Power, besides Beware, and then Earth Power is there for the Morpeko, which would resist it. The more I talk about how I can offensively hit Morpeko, the less I think it's coming. And I probably should be focusing more on the Escavalier, which is going to be a gigantic issue. Yeah, anyways, I'm lefties. I don't know. I've got a little bit of defense on there, and I'm weak armor, so I should outspeed some things if it gets to that point, but I'm definitely looking back on this team and thinking, yikes, why do I not have Arcanine on here? I'm just not sure what I would drop it for. Mimikyu, it's just sort of a standard Mimikyu. I'm outspeeding something. Roserade, just SD, 3 attacks with Snake, Claw, and Play Rough. Gothitelle can't touch me. deals with a lot of Pokemon on this team. It probably wins, depending on how low the Escavalier is, and depending on if the Morpeko is actually running max speed for me or not, or enough speed to creep over what I'm creeping, then that's a thing. But like, if Mimikyu gets set up and everything's in range, then it might just be game over. I'm not sure. I thought about that last. I thought that was going to happen against Kyle too, and Duraludon was like max Fizdef, so I'm not sure how this will play out. Escavalier is the biggest stopgap, I think, to Mimikyu just winning the game. But Colossal is actually a problem, and if Quagsire comes and it's unaware, then that's a problem too, because I'm not running Woodhammer for it. I really feel like I need Sneak so that I don't just lose my Mimikyu to the Dragapult afterwards. It's really important to have Sneak for the Dragapult, so I don't have room for Woodhammer as much as I would want it, and the recoil damage is kind of a yikes as well. Although if I have Disguise up, I'm not actually sure the mechanics of Disguise. Like, I know that you take 12% when your Disguise gets broken now, but I'm not sure if your Disguise gets broken and you only have 12% left, do you kill yourself? That's what I'm not sure about. I'm not sure if you kill yourself or if it rounds down to 1% or something. I'm not sure. Hopefully I don't have to test it out this game. Weavile is coming. I'm bringing a Scarf Weavile, which is an interesting tech. I've seen this before for Dragapult, and I'm not sure if she's going to be expecting it or not, but I think it's my best bring. Why, though? I could just be running Ice Shard. Why am I Scarfed? No. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm not running Ice Shard, and I don't have the room for Ice Shard, sorry. Yeah, that's why. I have Brick Break here for Morpeko, Beware. It's also a way to hit Colossal, but there's screens options for the Aromatisse, and I thought that it might be a viable strat to bring screens with Gothitelle here. So I'm running Brick Break for that. Crash is just overall good damage, beats a lot of stuff. I could probably be avoiding Crash and running Ice Shard instead, though. Poison Jab is there specifically for Aromatisse, and I will thoroughly regret not bringing Ice Shard over Poison Jab if I get into that situation. And you know what? It's probably irrelevant because I can really switch Cursula and like Togekiss into Aromatisse entirely. So I am just going to go with Shard, and we're going to take the Scarf off because that's irrelevant. And we'll put on Expert Belt? Assault Vest? I don't know. I guess AV is not terrible. Expert Belt's probably better. I'm Brick Break over Low Kick because it does a little bit more damage to the Beware, I think. It's a little bit sketchy with Mamoswine there, because Low Kick is just going to do so much more damage to Mamoswine. But I like the idea of breaking screens if they come. And then Throat Chop is there for Dragapult and Gothitelle, of course. Pretty much anything that would want to use a sound-based move, which I don't think is anything on the team. It's solid damage, at the very least. I'm outspeeding something. Oh, I was outspeeding Scarf Morpeko, which, again, is irrelevant, as I have a Raichu. But the idea is that I could switch into Dark Aura Wheel with Weavile. Aura Wheel is actually a really difficult move for my team to switch into, because my electric immunities take dark types neutrally, and my dark resists do not appreciate the electric Aura Wheel. So that's why I kind of think that Morpeko is coming, but I don't know. Either way, I'm outspeeding Morpeko, I guess, with this, which lets me be adamant with a lot of bulk. And then last but not least is Raichu. I'm running a Life Orb Raichu with Lightning Rod, so I do absorb the Morpeko hits. I'll absorb like Thunderbolt from Dragapult. She's probably aware of that. Doesn't really matter to me. I don't have, like, my ground type is Piloswine, so fairly irrelevant for the most part. Just 4 attacks is fine here. Like, I didn't need Surf on this team because I'm running Focus Blast instead of Surf. But Grass Knot is there for Mamoswine plus Quag, which I think is actually really effective. And then Electric coverage for like Gyarados, Morpeko. You know what? I should be thinking about making this Scarfed. The problem is that I don't want to get locked in anything. And maybe Orb is the wrong play, and maybe I should be AV. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see. Focus Blast. Reason I have Focus Blast baffles me right now. I'm not entirely sure why. Might be Morpeko. Yeah, it's Morpeko. That's why. I have tons of coverage for Morpeko this game, by the way. Also outspeeding Morpeko with this, so it means I'm timid, but I get a lot of bulk. It's like 1 point less than Weavile. Like, Weavile just hits Adamant, and that's because Adamant Weavile underspeeds Timid Raichu. So why do I have 4 extra EVs? Great question. I'm not sure why it's only 4. Anyways, that's Raichu. In terms of my upbringing, I explained about Conk already earlier. Arcanine I've talked a little bit about, and then it should probably fit on the team. Piloswine has an okay matchup, but it's not great. Qwilfish is a yikes in this game for me. Besides bringing like extra hazards to my side and being a T-Spikes absorber, I just don't like Qwilfish in this game at all. It's Gothcell food. It's Gyarados food, if I'm being honest. It's Mamoswine food. It's Morpeko food. It's Escavalier food. I don't like any of those options. Flapple, also Escavalier food. I hate that idea. It's also Aromatisse food, which is a yikes. And it's Mamoswine fodder. So yeah, no, Flapple is not coming to this game. And that is that, because I've talked way too long about this, and I will catch you guys for the match. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully we pick up a W.